3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 17, take 2.
Take 2. Now go on then. Explain to everyone why this is take 2, Chrissy.
I had a bit of a mess up last night, and we did a
You dropped a bollock. Just face it. You dropped a bollock.
I did. We did a full bloody episode, and then when I pressed stop, I looked down and we'd only been recording Dom's mic,
And
so
no one wants that. And no one wants that. That would be actually torture. You know, them lovely listeners that we've gained up over this time would just go, nah, no way. Evacuate.
Hopefully this one will be a little bit more successful and both mics on. But yeah.
May I just say that was our best one ever. You know, we got everything clear. You know, no swearing. It was borderline poetic. You know, Shakespeare would have been proud of what we did there, and it'll never be repeated. So we'll have to give it a go here.
That's it. Yeah. So first of all, few sponsors for the episode. First of all, we've got a loyal supporter of the podcast, Phil Kemp. He's got a little business, PKRtechnologies, and he's made it's basically like a wheel stand. So for lads doing track days or club racing or whatever, you obviously set up a little pit box, and you want to, like, say you've got your dries in the bike and you want your wets on. It's a neat little, I think it's aluminium frame, and you stick a set of wheels on.
It keeps you off the ground, doesn't it?
That's it. Yeah, it comes in 3 parts. It's dead easy to assemble, and it fits away nicely. So it's it's top bit of kit. I'll stick a link on the Twitter, and you can check that out. But I would highly recommend it. I tried it myself at the weekend, and it's a cool little mechanism, and it's very useful for lads like ourselves.
Because obviously we'll go into it in a bit of detail, but were we on the weekend, or was it
Sorry,
a weekend?
Monday,
There you see, these rock star teachers, you see, get to take all their time off.
That's it. But so thanks for sponsoring the podcast, and I'll stick that on. I think he's selling them for £70. So I think
what's that made out of?
Ali, I think.
£70 for Ali?
I think so.
I tell you what, it's worth more than scrap. You know, you might as well buy. I tell you what, I think we're going to rip them under. But thank you for sponsoring the podcast, by the way. But we're going to end up just being a couple of scrap dealers, like real pikes, mate.
That's it, spot on. So I'll stick the link on that. Thanks for sponsoring the podcast. And the second of the sponsors, a while back we had, can you remember www.tracktoys.net? The sponsored, I can't remember.
Right, it was a while ago,
about episode 6 or something. But they actually gave the money to sponsor 2 episodes, so they've kind of had one in the bank. And when I've got in touch with him to ask what he like for which episode he would like, he actually said he would like to use this time to dedicate towards the Daily Matheson fundraiser, so the GoFundMe page that's been set up to support the family of Daily Matheson. So a very admirable, nice gesture. And,
that's unreal, that.
And obviously a very important cause. Obviously, we'll go into it in more detail, like reflecting upon TT19, but obviously a very sad and traumatic, incident. And,
without a doubt, and Daly was, such a passionate person. You know, he really was. You know, his racing mean absolutely everything, and I didn't really get a chance to properly bump into him at this year's TT, but you could tell he was in a good place. He had a fantastic Northwest. You know, he put a lot of effort into getting to his pre-riding, into getting him into he's part of 2 successful teams, and the fact that he wanted to build on that, and you could tell the way he was riding and his attitude towards it this year, and he was in a really, really good place. And sadly, he's lost his life to the sport that he loves. And like you say, this, the fact that this sponsor of ours, Track Days, is wanting to come on board and do that to help out his young family, and it's brilliant, mate.
That's it. So it's such a tragic loss, and obviously, a young man chasing his dreams on the roads, and like I say, incredibly tragic. But he's left behind a young family, a young wife, and a young child. So the GoFundMe page has been set up. I think they're on £27,700 so far. I would say congratulations to everyone that's donated so far. And if there's anyone out there that would like to make a further donation, I'll also put the link on the Twitter page.
Spot on, mate. Spot on.
I've seen quite a few of the people in the paddock sort of coming up with unique ways of raising money for the family of Daly Matheson. I've seen Peter Marksman put his BMW race screen, signed TT screen on
All
eBay.
right.
And that went over for over £1,000. I think it was £1,070 in the end.
Oh,
So
and that's all going to
all going
Daly's
for that.
family.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah.
Oh wow, absolutely. Just obviously that's that's the thing about this sport, and Daly knew that. It's such a hard subject to approach this, mate. It's like with the risk and the danger off that island, and it does draw us to it, and you can't love the highs, and you definitely can't love the lows without they need each other to work. And Daly knew the risks, and as we all do, and Daly went out chasing his dream, and you can't respect anything more than that, and it's it's a difficult one, mate.
So
it really is.
Just I would like to thank it's Shane Austin who decided to do that, and it's from www.tracktoys.net, and that site is massively worth checking out. I know he didn't want us to do a plug for it, but I would recommend checking it out if you like looking at bikes on eBay, and like there's some real trick like Moto2 bikes, XBSB bikes for sale on there.
Stuff that we can't afford.
Some cool bits of kit. So yeah, check it out. But thanks again. And on to the show. So episode 17, this one. We're getting through the episodes these days, aren't we? Flying through.
Oh God, Bennett, we're banging them out like dodgy checks, mate. It's going far too quick.
So basically, obviously our first podcast after the TT, and what a fantastic TT it was for yourself, really successful. And there's lots of questions I've got asked, so it's kind of like, instead of having a guest, you're kind of, I know you run the show, but
we're cheaping out on this show. We're massively cheaping out.
I think it'll sort of work well if I sort of ask the questions, and we can sort of go through the full sort of 2 weeks of the TT.
Well, we did ask Dean Harrison, but as you can imagine, being the senior winner, he's a little bit busy, so we're stuck with 10th place man me. We tried all the way down to 10th, mind. You know what I mean? We're trying to get Brian McCormack in, but he's too busy as well. So it's you're stuck with me. You're stuck with me.
So to start off with, obviously, I presume a lot of people listening won't actually know about the pre-TT down at the Southern 100 course. So
we touch lightly on that at with our last podcast that we did at the Scott Physio tent, and it was like I kept saying, it was a bit of a karaoke bar, and we kept handing around the mic. But the pre-TT, like Jamie Coward was there, and like Paul Jordan was there. It was new coming to the circuit. Actually, Paul Jordan, he did a really good job. He was on the Mistral 750, which is essentially like brackets for rocket ship. It's an absolute work of art of a bike. But like I say, you got like family friends of mine like Heffernan Owen. You've got Alan Oversby, who's a top classic like TT contender, and they all go to the pre-TT, which is the weekend before practice week. Well, actually, race day is, I'm trying to mind on now. So you got practice day on Saturday, like qualifying, and then we go straight into our first practice night on the Saturday, which unfortunately got cancelled to the shite weather. And then on the Monday we go into racing, and then back out for practice. So me and Jamie and Paul, it was just back and forth. But it was an advantage for us in a way. I know it was classic machinery, but it's still bike time while we're over there. But instead of being at the north of a start line, we were right at the bottom. And you were actually staying near there, weren't you, Chris?
Yeah, that's it. So I came over to the TT with my girlfriend Emily for like 4 days, and
go on. You talk us how you persuaded your girlfriend to go to the Isle of Man. This is genius, gentlemen. Listen, take note.
Our birthday was just before the TT, so obviously birthday present. 3 nights, 4 days, and accommodation and flights to the Isle of Man TT.
It's smoothie.
Every girl's dream, really.
Of course it is. I think every hot model I've ever spoken to was like, I just wish I could find a man that would take me to the middle of the Irish Sea where there's barely any phone signal, never mind any atmosphere.
You're right. We stayed down. It was just off the Southern 100 course. Is Ballabeg?
Ballabeg,
yeah.
It's one of them right turns. So you go down right and then right, then right.
And I actually had the joy of Dom came to pick us up one morning, and Dom took us for it was kind of half a lap of the Southern 100, wasn't it? And
I think you didn't want to do any more.
My goodness me, that place is insane. Is it about 4 mile, 4 or 5 mile?
I should know. It feels like this is Dom versus the guest
It's
again.
something
Yeah,
like
I
that,
know.
isn't it?
It's a 5 mile lap, I believe.
About
It
a
is
5 mile.
I hope it is.
And it's just a crazy little country road with 2 walls. One
Where
on
are
the
those
left
in?
and one on the right. It is mental. And yeah, I mean, I would actually like to get over to watch you at the
I was
700.
about to say, I thought we got a bit of a taste for a
No,
road
not
race
right.
there for
Nah.
a second.
But so what classes? I know you said it's classic bikes, but what are the categories that you can race in down there?
You've got your lightweights, you've got your 500 senior, you've got your 350 twins, you've got your classic super bikes like up to 1992, you've got even classic sidecars. You know, the grids are really full. You know, it's actually one of the main races on the calendar, to put it blunt. You know, it's obviously you've got the classic TT and then the pre-TT, you know, as far as road racing. But obviously there is classic racing abroad like Chimay and different, like the classic racing is a very known thing.
Yeah.
And it's obviously, it's like anything. If you scratch the surface at it, you'll find how deep it goes. But no, that was definitely the pre-TT, and you know, it was actually nice because we got a bit of good weather compared to the following week.
Yeah. And so you were out on is it Davies Motorsport 350 and the 500?
350 and the 500, and it was no, the bikes were brilliant. Very much learn something. You learn something new every time you go out on a bike. You know that yourself, Chrissy. And it was a case of I learned like to put it blunt, mate, I've totally cocked up my starts, you know. In those, I had 3 races. It was the 850 race, which you could enter the 500 in, and you had the 500 race and the 350 twin race. The 350 race, it was me, Jamie, and Alan properly trading places, going for it, and my chain jumped off. Just one of those things, you know what I mean? It's just that bumpy of a track, and things just want to go all over the place. The 500 actually cooked my engine. Like, it didn't knack the engine. Basically, in the warm-up lap, I went too hard, and it bogged it off the line. So I was just riding the clutch out of it, trying to get it going. And by the time I got my momentum forward, I think I dropped down like 10th place nearly. And obviously, that allowed Jamie and Alan to clear off from us, to put it blunt. Because obviously they were on some very quick machinery themselves, and it was just like, once you lose that toe, it's hard to get back. But you know, you live and learn. You live and learn, Chrissy. You know that yourself. You can't win them all.
That's it.
Well, last year I won them, but this year I've buggered it up. Don't get me wrong, I was on the podium on them, but I still buggered it up.
So I was going to just say, so out of the 3 races, one of them you DNF'd. What was the results in the other 2?
A second and a third.
Oh,
So you know, we got it like
bit of silverware.
Bit of silverware, young'un. Bit of Cash's King. Bit of cheddar, young'un. Bit of cheddar.
lovely jubbly. Always helps the job out, doesn't it?
Lovely jubbly. I like that. That's a new one for you. I love how I ended up with lovely man, even though it was lovely lad. Let me clear that up right now. I think you should be lovely jubbly.
Tell you what, it was, by the way, it was lovely to meet some of the podcast fans over at the TT when I was there, and
you're like a rash. You get everywhere, you lot. You're fantastic.
And it was funny to hear people shouting out "lovely man." It's like, it is a proper catchphrase now for you, isn't it?
Oh, it's like some lad will have to get his name off Twitter. He put it across his bloody visor, man. It's sort of like you put it on Twitter and retweeted it, but.
I tell you, did you see on Twitter? I've just had the back of my van done with Chasing the Race.
I tell you what,
I should
mate.
have got a lovely. In fact, I might get.
No, you're not.
Do you know
you're not. No, don't.
Do you know on Only Fools Noses where they've got like, he's got Dellen's Rodney across the front of the
like Ali
van.
G,
yeah,
my bitch. I don't think Emily's going to be very proud of you. Put lovely man.
Lovely man. Spot on. Well, so that was the pre-TT, and obviously the paddock for the main TT races is just up from Douglas, and the Southern 100 course is at about 10-15 miles south.
By the airport?
Yeah,
right
down
by the airport.
Castletown,
all the way down south.
So when you get to the TT, do you sort of set up camp in Douglas in the paddock? Is it something park?
Nobles Park,
Nobles
like the
Park,
grandstand. Yeah. So it's,
and then do you just travel down for the?
Yeah, just travel down.
Castletown.
You know, it's only, like I say, it's only 30 miles. Like over there, the local Manx people think that's a million miles away, but it's for us, it's just down the road. And once again, the good thing about classic bikes is, obviously the initial bike's expensive to buy, but you don't have wets, you don't have tire warmers, nothing. You know what I mean? You pull the bike out and you've got a simple little toolkit to alter the carbs. You know what I mean? So it's actually, as far as racing, you don't have to pack a lot. You know what I mean? A jerry can full of fuel and some carb needles, and then you just off you go.
Smashing. And so obviously a successful weekend to start that sort of 2 weeks, and then straight into practice week. Obviously,
What practice week? You were there for 4 days of it. What practice week?
It turned out to be a challenging week, especially for the organisers. You know, it was an impossible job for Gary Thompson to be, to keep everyone happy.
That man deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. There's just no two ways about it.
But the weather was really unfortunate, inclement, and do you know what? Sometimes I was waking up down in Castletown and it was nice and sunny, and then I would check my phone and up on the mountain it was foggy. And it's one of those things at the TT, because it's such a big lap. Even if one part of it is shitty, it's then difficult.
It's totally jeopardised the whole thing.
Exactly. So yeah, it wasn't like a total washout, was it? It wasn't like the weather was terrible. It was just not quite good enough for bikes.
It was the timing of it, you know what I mean? When practice came along, and it just had like a band of like bad luck, just going straight through the island, and it's the mad thing is, like, I think what makes this year worse as far as the weather, not the organisation, not the way it was ran or anything, you know what I mean? What made it bad was, like, last year was so bleeding good, you know what I mean? For
so
2
by
weeks.
comparison.
Exactly, that's it. It was two totally polar opposites. And I think because we had such good weather, it made this year highlighted so much worse. And, I felt more for the fans, like us riders. Yes, we're gutted, and we build our entire lives around going to the TT. And yes, we are gutted, but I met a couple of Canadians who were on the same system as you. You turned up, bless you, and you didn't see a thing. And these people have spent, this has been on their bucket list their entire lives to go to the Isle of Man, and they didn't see a single wheel turn. And they've spent an absolute, you and me just have to drive to Hersham, get on a boat, and then we just sail out.
It's like our mate that we met over there, CJ, he was over from, was it New York?
From New York. Shout out to CJ, a lovely man. Shout out. And there's a lad called Mel who races as well. He's from Canada, but he couldn't we'll have to get him on as a guest, actually, because he's got an interesting story, but people, this is an international event. This is the world's biggest event ever. You know what I mean? It really is the biggest motorsport event, and people from all over the world come to this, not just to compete and to watch. And my heart breaks for them. It's absolutely devastating, mate. So that, like, practice week, we didn't have a practice week, mate. That's the question of that.
It was at about 12 laps in total that you got in practice week across the classes. And when you first time out on the new Kawasaki, what was your first impressions of the bike around the TT course?
It was like a throttle, like we've talked about it off air. God, we sound like Radio 1 here. Off air, we've had a chat. But obviously, it's just because it's a new bike, and like it's just getting that front, like the throttle connectivity right. And obviously, the Davies team did a fantastic job with that. Working with yourself, even Chrissy Rouse has obviously come in because you've put a lot of development work with the Morello team into getting that right. And obviously, like, it's not just that team. Everyone fends for them. Like, it looks after each other in the paddock. It's not just shut the door and leave. Like going up the JG Speedfit or what do you know and everything. People are there to help each other out. It's a competitive sport, but we are a family, and everyone just works together. And the bike got better and better, but we just lacked that gallop. It didn't feel like my bike. We only did like 2 days riding, 1.5 days, and obviously the Northwest went a bit shite. But that's what I mean. We had a sort of chat before going to the TT, and we're talking about the fact that exactly what you're saying. You only really had like a day and a half on the bike before going to the TT, and when you compare that to lads that have done the first 4 rounds of British Superbikes and Spanish testing and this and that, it did seem like you were a little bit on the back foot going to the TT. It definitely felt like that. But at the end of the day, beggars can't be choosers, and we're all in the same boat. Like I say, the Davies team, I was very, very lucky that they asked me to ride for them. And
got the bike set up nice and sweet.
Exactly, that's it. And like the fact they really did a fantastic job, but obviously the budget can only take you so far, and we had no money or, more importantly, time to go testing on it. But we kind of relied on last year's weather to do it this year. Think, we've got a whole week of practice, and I think the most important factor, like people who were on the same bike last year, that was their advantage. But there was a lot of people there with new teams, new bikes. Even Hickman, he was on a new bike.
Yeah,
like Dean
well,
Harrison. Bear in mind, he was
yeah,
on a
the
new
top-
stocker.
top two lads. Yeah, exactly.
And
brand
say
new
Michael
bikes.
Dunlop. I'm trying to think. Really, the only people that were consistent was your Dave O'Johnsons,
No, it was
Connor Cummins.
Yeah,
Connor Cummins.
Cummins, yeah.
I tell you what, like let's just jump straight into that. Let's just jump straight into the rock stars of it. I was really hoping this was going to be Connor Cummins. Yes, don't get me wrong, podiums. The lad can ride a bike, but you think he's been on the same bike for 4 years. It's damp conditions. He knows the road like the back of his hand. That first night of practice, he went off and he got black flagged over the mountain. And you just think, come on, this is Connor's year. And I bet even he was thinking it. You're just thinking, come on, Connor. I was screaming for him. Absolutely screaming for him. But
yeah, he rode really well, and he was there all week. But I know what you mean. It was other riders that took the main spoils, wasn't it? But
Yes,
he was sort of the. It was. I think in all fairness, it was a good week for him, and I think he'll probably be coming away from the TT relatively happy and a little bit more loaded than when he started. Because I tell you what, that Coffee Man brand is fucking everywhere. Every single person I've seen had a cup of Coffee Man in there, and so
this
I think
has literally become a hobby for him. Good
Good-
lad,
yeah,
Connor.
yeah,
Good lad.
Do you know what? A smart move there, setting up because over in the Isle of Man, I know you've got your
Tax
odd
havens,
Starbucks,
yeah.
and you get a Costa coffee, but there's not. Do you know, like in England, where like every service station you stop and there's a Starbucks or a Costa machine, where Connor's kind of like the sort of main coffee dealer on the Isle of Man now, isn't he? And he's got his coffee shops in Ramsey.
Very popular, very fast, and people want to support local people.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
like you say, he's hit the nail on the
And
mark.
I would happily admit that coffee's nice as well.
It's banging. Like
Nice
I haven't
that, yeah.
slept. I'm still awake now, Chrissy. You know what I mean?
It's spot on. Well, I tell you what. Let's go through that's practice week done. Let's go through in order. So obviously, and it's 6 races. The first of them was on the Monday, I believe, which was the Superbike race. Obviously, tragic end, and it was down as a 4-lap race, but I think it was
it was supposed to be going the distance of 4 laps, but obviously on the second lap, the red flag with Daly, and then obviously they just red flagged that, and they just called that on a session, mate. And
tragic start of the week.
Yeah,
and
and then obviously after that, everyone got involved with the weather, and it just got, to be honest, it just became a backlog of just no one knew where they were. It just everyone was like, do we go out? Like, what are we doing? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? And like I say, I think the TT organisers deserve a massive pat on the back.
Yeah,
because you just think that the shit hand that they got dealt, and the way they came about it was brilliant.
Yeah,
and their communications keen. I think that you can tell Gary Thompson is a military man. I'd love to get him on as a guest. We'll have to get him on as a guest and reflect upon this. And it's just like his communications key. He's not naive. He doesn't treat people like idiots, and I think that's important. I think people in not just this sport. I mean, like all sports kind of thing, will keep quiet at the last minute, and that agitates people. He's constantly communicating and gives reason why, and I think, like you said, mate, you would not want his job.
Yeah,
and I think finding another Gary Thompson, if I was in there, I'd be going, I want double what I want, because I've lost 3 years of my life through stress.
I bet, aye. And obviously it was I think it was a 14th place finish for you in the end in that race. I've listened to every race and watched live timing on every race, and I think most people lining up on the grid didn't really feel ready to race for that one. Obviously, like we were saying, for no fault of anyone else, but the lack of practice, most people were kind of lining up saying this is almost like a practice race, because nobody was 100% sure where they sort of stood with the bikes.
People were making big changes and changing this and changing that, like you say, and it was just and yeah, it would have been. It's a good attitude to go in thinking it's practice, but then at the end of the day, it's racing, and you've got to go for it.
And then I think Tuesday was off, and then Wednesday was the big day. So it was I think they squeezed about five races
Was it the
in,
Wednesday
as
they
well
did
as well as practice and qualifying. Because was it? Let's think. So you had your first superbike race, and then you had your super sport stock twin. And I think there was a sidecar, and was there not a zero race?
Yeah,
there was a big day for you. So starting off with,
they were all 2 lappers. They weren't
proper.
They've just reduced the races, and it's. I'll tell you what, it massively highlighted a problem for me that particular day. I'm too slow off the mark. and that like Hickman, like we were discussing that before, and Hickman said one of my biggest weaknesses, I'm not quick enough off the mark. And he's definitely changed that around this year anyway. He's definitely turned that on its head. So there's hope for me yet, Chris. There's hope for me yet. But
I mean, it must be difficult going from, sitting cool in the paddock to then 100-mile-an-hour flat out down Bray Hill and straight into it.
Oh, you wake up, wipe your arse, and you go down Bray Hill, that's all.
Yeah. So, I understand what you're saying about that, because watching your sort of sectors, over the sort of week, it was a case of like sort of maybe first sector settling in, and then you start making gains and gains and gains. But how do you go about preparing for going out? Like, obviously it's a very in comparison to say what I do, it's a very different feeling, I would say. The start of a TT race, and how do you sort of? I presume you must get very nervous before the race, and like how do you prepare for that?
Well, it's just through necessity you adapt. You know what I mean? It's like everyone who wrote. That's the thing, right? The TT is that intense, and if you are not there for any other reason that you want to be there and that you love it, that's the only reason you go down the road. Is because you love it. If you couldn't, you just couldn't. If you had any doubt in your mind or nothing, you would just go, I'm not going.
Yeah.
It's that intense, mate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But people bring it up, and it's almost glamorized, the whole, the life and death thing. But at the end, trying to portray that, and riders have tried to do this for years through interviews, like, what's it like? And it's just, it is phenomenal. You cannot describe it. The feel of just accomplishment, and it doesn't matter what you do. The worst thing about the TT, in my opinion, the worst thing about the TT is
going home.
No, well, that and the time, the actual time, because you come in and you feel like you're out by yourself, and this is incredible. You're getting to ride your race your bike on 37 miles of closed roads, and you think, and this is just the best thing ever. It really is.
Spot on. So then the Super Sport race next. Obviously, the first time out on the 600 for a race. That's your own 600, isn't it, the Kawasaki?
Yes, that we're running in the Davies Motorsport team. It's a bike that obviously with the GoFundMe thing, no, wrong thing. the bomb squad that we kindly set up there, and obviously some incredible donations that we've got the bike up and running, and we had it at the TT, and unfortunately it lacked the legs a bit down the straights, and I think you saw that on the Solby speed traps.
Yeah, looking on the speed traps in the sectors where that you had them long straights, you could see that you were struggling for out and out power. Did you get the bike dynoed, or do you have any sort of ideas what sort of ponies it was kicking out?
We got it at Slick Bass, but it was putting out on his dyno like around about the 127 brake.
For a Super Sport bike, that is low. That's like a stock bike, really, isn't it?
Well, that's it. But it's it. Obviously, I got my hands on a last minute engine, and you win them and you lose them, don't you? So it was. I'm over the moon though. Like the team, like Colin and the team got the chassis handling amazing. It was absolutely handling on rails. There was one, I think in the second Super Sport race, I was actually like, I think I was beating like Michael Dunlop, and like, oh god, I was beating some serious names through the Glen Helen section alone, and that was a big confidence boost on a bike that was a little bit further down the order. But no, it's a Super Sport bike, loved it, and just need a... And
still, two good finishes. I know you had one later in the week, but you're 13th and a 14th in the Super Sport, and lapping just shy of 124 mile an hour, is no mean feat, so you must have been reasonably happy with that.
Yeah, just like I say, everyone was in the same boat, everyone would prefer to be out in jet skis in practice week, but it was a case of, no, it was obviously lack of track time, but, nothing to whinge at there, mate, the fact that, everyone was in the same boat, and... Yeah, just it. Like you say, I'm gutted it's over for another year, and you just want to get back and go again.
That's it. Then on to the Super Stock. When I was watching the Super Stock race, and I seen you, was that a 2-lap race as well?
That was a 3-lapper.
And it was on the last lap that you didn't come through one of the sectors.
I got caught speeding in pit lane at first.
That was it, mate. That was it.
Because I had loads amazing people pit boarding for us, absolutely amazing people. And in the race, I can't remember where I got up to. where the hell did I get up to in that race? I saw
It's about 11th or
like
something.
11th. I saw P11. Then obviously came in for my fuel, came down, and I saw like P32. I'm like, I'm looking behind this going, am I holding someone up here or something like that? And then obviously got over the mountain. So that was at the bottom at on what do you call it? Going in the Braddon Bridge, and I was like, oh bollocks, right? I think they've got it wrong. And then I got to the gooseneck, and I got it down to 26. I was like, oh no. Then I came back over the mountain, coming in the Craigna Bar, and I got it down to the 16th, and I was like, oh, for crying out loud. No, sorry, that was the lap prior. So no, because you had to do a pit stop on the first lap.
Yeah, I remember
That was it. So I'm trying to remember the order this is going. And then when I came back round, the fuel pump packed in.
Bugger.
So coming up the bit, just surging like wah, 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 and I went, bollocks, It was a case of it was surging that bad. I thought I'm going to lose the frontier because it was windy this year, like over the mountain especially. And I just thought, no, I'm not chucking this brand new bike up the road for the sake of a fuel pump. I thought the tank was vacuum at first, so I just lifted the cap off while riding. You know what I mean? So I like took like 6 gear, trying to take the cap off, and I went. Normally you can actually hear the thing, but I'm thinking I must be doing 150 mile an hour here, and I'm going, nah, it's done now to you. So put it back on, like trying to like look where I'm going, put it back on, and then it was just like I just kept doing it. So I had to sack that one off, which is unfortunate.
And when you say about the speed penalty, obviously there's a 60 miles an hour or 60 kilometers an hour?
60 kilometers an hour.
60 kilometers an hour a speed limit in pit lane. I know when the bikes come into pit lane, so on the handlebar you've got a button for which is sort of set. Do you set that up on the dyno?
You can set that up on the dyno, and obviously it alters with gearing. But we set it up. Like I say, we just heads with our arses. We found loads of little problems, and we never got a chance to actually pit lane check it. So we did it off the GPS that's built into the Kawasaki, and we just went. It was just a bit too exuberant is the word. It was just like it was reading like 56, and then it went down to 54, then it went up to 62. My speed pit lane, and I got 30 seconds for this, mine was 60.2. It literally must have gone boop over the top. It was like a full-on Guy Martin moment, when he just full-on spat the dummy job.
Yeah.
It was like, but obviously I wasn't high up at the table as him.
And it was a case of the mechanical DNF kind of covered for it, really, didn't it? Because it didn't end up mattering in the grand scheme of things.
It died, but you still think,
a lesson learned.
Lesson learned. So obviously, it was a lesson learned. So obviously, we went into the senior, and obviously we lowered the actual pit lane limit considerably down, and it worked beautifully.
Yeah.
Yes, we lost a bit of time, but it was worth it. We weren't getting big pit lanes.
And then, so you stock DNF, and then you had a really strong run on the Counting Race and twin bike, obviously finishing P9. And what I really liked about that race was I was listening to the radio prior to the race, and when, is it Chris someone comes and interviews?
Well, you've got Chris Kinley and Chris Palmer, both short, like dwarfism kind of thing. I think I'll get told off for saying that. No, they're just dead. They're just... What do you normally say?
It's small man.
That's small guys. Aye, they are. Small man.
So he came to interview you, and you were talking about what an honour it was to be riding the Counting Race and twin. Obviously in honour of James.
Which I meant, mate.
Oh, absolutely. And what I really liked was when you were saying it's such an honour, but then you said, but this isn't a parade lap. Like, I'm going to go out there and I can't remember the exact words that you used, but it was along the lines of, I'm going to wring its neck and I'm going to, bite the screen and go for it type of thing. And, I was listening and the hairs were standing up, listening to that, and I just thought it was really good. And there was a few other interviews actually. The one, it was just before a super sport race where you got out to do a lap on the stocker, and the guy said, "Oh, so you've done a lap on the stocker? Are you all ready?" And he said, "Yeah, all set to go, but the track's dirtier than my imagination."
There's some shite that falls out my mouth, Chrissy.
Where does that come from, mate? Like, where do you get these sayings from?
I've no idea. It must have been a dodgy childhood or something. I don't know. No, I don't know. I think I just go into like a writer's block and zone out, and just shite falls out my face as normal.
But obviously, first top 10 in of this year.
The bike, James's bike was it was James' like first twin. And the family have developed that over such a long time, and I keep harping on about it, and everyone was in the same boat. We just lacked track time on it, and it was the same with that. We went to Croft on it prior on a Sunday, like half a day session, and then we just went to the TT on it. But the Cowton family have had some serious support, like from James. And it just shows what the Cowton name means in the paddock, and like people want to be like Phil Crow sponsored us. Him and his business partner sponsored the Cowton family. That just shows what James meant to everyone. You know what I mean? And the fact that his dad asked me to race it, and to bring the bike home one bit was mint. It was absolutely mint. But like I say, I wasn't there to mess around. But like I said earlier in this program, my weaknesses and my starts, we did just like literally just a midgie's dick of 119 on it, and it's just like.
No, you did 119, didn't you?
I'll have to double
you
check the
sheets.
sheets.
Stick off at 120, I think.
Oh,
you
right.
Were, you were 119,
it was something like that. And that was on the second lap because we only had a 2-lap race. And you think the bike is more than capable. And it was absolutely mint. But even when you, it was just a huge honour. And, I really enjoy that class. I just need more time at it.
Yes, spot on. And that race was good to watch. Obviously, we had Jamie Coward on the
Jamie Coward. This is more like, let's stop talking about this gobshite. Jamie Coward.
Just for a second, we'll diverge for a second. Obviously, I had Jamie on the podcast during TT practice week, and he came so close to getting that maiden
That
victory.
was a midgie's dick.
It was, and obviously battling him against Michael Dunlop. And for me, to be honest, I was kind of pleased with whoever won out of those two for different reasons. Obviously, it would have been great to see Jamie get his first win, but I was actually pleased to see, after everything Michael's went through and riding injured, he was clearly struggling on the big bike. So to see him get his win, and it's his 19th win overall.
I agree with you there, mate. Because obviously I'm a little bit biased. Like, I've grown up with Jamie, and obviously, to get his first podium. But he was actually proper upset. We'll have to get him on it, like get him back on the show. But it was just like he was so close, so close. And like that, not just in that class, like Paul Jordan, that was his
P4 on it.
P4. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's been around there on a twin before, but anyway, he hasn't done it for a long time. But a P4, he was on an outstanding bike, and he rode it brilliantly, absolutely brilliant. So P4, it's just he was so close to a podium, and. It was a fair few firsts this year. Like Dave Johnson,
big shout out.
That's it. It's about time Honda pulled their finger out and put him on a stock for Honda as well. To get on that podium. Dave Johnson, he likes to party, that lad. So
and as well as Lee Johnson, obviously maiden victory in the first Super Sport race. Fantastic ride.
Fermanagh will rise again.
I think everyone in the paddock was pleased to see it, and it was very emotional when he came into that Parc Fermé. Obviously, his team, it's kind of his team in it that he set up himself. Got some good guys working for him, and obviously a young. It's not a wife, it's a fiance.
I think they've got a little kid called Jesse, they're like the light of their life. But it was just like you say, he has a young family himself, and it was just meant to see. To put it blunt, you get used to this pattern of your Dunlops and your Hickmans and your Harrisons. They're always dominating, rightly so. They put a lot of effort in, and they're just so fucking fast. So to actually have different people up there. You know what I mean? Like, put a spin ball in there, and it was just great to see Lee and win it. It was absolutely class because he lost his dad.
I was just about to mention this I don't know if you got to hear his interview after when he came in, but it's I don't easily get emotional, but like just listening to it
being
on
an
the radio,
Northeast lad, he
said he was obviously just overdrawn with like emotion, and it was like how hard and like everything he sacrificed, and how hard it is to get to where he's got to, maiden TT win. But he said there's only one person I wish could have seen this, and he'd be looking down. I'm sure he's looking down proud, and he as he said it, he broke down, and it just when it chokes you up.
That's it. And like one of my sponsors, Roy Armstrong, grew up with his dad. Best of friends. And I spend a lot of time over there with the family, and you can just see how close they were. I've had very, very lucky that I've met you and your dad, and you and your dad are very close, and to do something that he's dreamed of, and for his dad not to be there, that was tough. And you could, like you say on that interview, you could hear it. You could hear heartbreaks everywhere, couldn't you? And it's just, if anyone deserved it, it was definitely Lee Johnson, and like I say, Jamie Coward, he did a fantastic pre-TT. You know, Davo, just good to see, you know, an absolute Aussie psychopath up there, and he's just such a great character. People need that in this sport, characters.
That's it.
And you need that in this game, and he's definitely there, and he rides the absolute wheels off it, and it was great to see that. It really was. But
and then obviously all teeing up to the big one on Friday, senior TT. It was the start was brought forward because of the weather, so a 10 a.m. start. I mean, how.
Good thing I'm a woodcutter. I'm up in the morning anyway.
We're talking about, you know, prepping for a TT, but, you know, prepping for a 6-lap senior, getting up and 10 o'clock ready to go. Obviously, you'd had a good week's racing up to that point, and you must have been feeling reasonably good going into the senior.
Yeah, no, I think the thing is, because obviously last year everyone was dizzy and blowing up engines and all sorts. You know, we did that many laps, and you know yourself, mate, imagine going to the gym every night flat out for 2 weeks. That's essentially it. So I think everyone was mentally drained rather than physically drained going into that race. And I think you look at the laps and everyone was improving. I think, well, you know, I say a fair few of us were improving throughout the race every time. You know, each lap we were getting stronger, and I was over the moon to be one of them getting stronger riders. And it shows, like, the fitness does pay off, and you know. But like I say, that 6-lapper is just. My dad taught me how to attack it, and my dad just says 2 laps at a time, two laps till you see the flag. That's all you need to think of, and that helps me. And my dad being there really does calm me down. I wouldn't tell that to his face. Good thing he doesn't listen to the podcast. They are, but you know, just 2 laps, and like I say, you just get stronger. And lucky for us, we missed the weather, and to be able to finish the Isle of Man TT, you know, for everyone with the senior 6-lapper was brilliant. Yeah,
and I mean, it was a fantastic race to follow on the radio and the live timing. So obviously the first 2 laps, who was the first man that you came in contact on the road with?
Brian McCormack. Now crowned the Southern Irish fastest rider. There you go. So, like I say, Brian is such a consistent rider. You know, he's so strong. You know, he can go out for the first lap and put a fast lap in and consistently bang that in every time. And he passed me on the third. I think it was on the 3rd lap or the 2nd lap. If he's listening, he'll be screaming he'll be screaming at his little phone here. But I think it was the 2nd lap, and went round and I stayed with him, and then obviously we started getting another company, and I just lost that little bit of a toe, and then I reeled him back in again, and I was battling on the road with Gary Johnson, not physically on the road but in times, and I had no idea about that. And yeah, I lost the toe with Brian a bit, and then obviously we came in for that last pit stop, and stupid numbnuts here left the bike in gear. So obviously Piggy, your lovely mechanic that you've kindly loaned me, which is an amazing big shout out to Piggy because he always listens to this. And I left the thing in bloody gear. So the top chain tightens, you see, under tension, and the bottom's dead slack. So we couldn't actually release the axle to get the wheel out, and so I cost myself essentially a speeding penalty.
Almost, yeah.
Almost 24 seconds on top of our fueling. So we're in there a minute.
1:25 it was, yeah. Because your first pit stop after the first 2 laps was really strong, and you actually made up quite a bit of time on a few lads that you were sort of battling with at the time. So yeah, you had a really strong first pit stop, but then your second pit stop, a good pit stop's around 57 seconds, 59 seconds.
Aye, sub-minute.
Yeah, and you came out at 1:25, so you could see you sort of lost that toe to Brian McCormack, who was ahead of you on the roads, but he was also just ahead of you in time as well. And but what was good to see is you were consistently faster from the pit stop. So the second pit stop, you were then catching McCormack in every sector, and you were just slightly going a little bit faster, and it was great to see so many greens. And then obviously towards the final lap, for those that don't know, so senior TT, you'll have your lap from a standing start, then you've got a lap coming in. So neither of those laps are flying. Then you get another standing start, and then you get another lap coming in. So again, you don't get a full flying lap. Then you get a standing start. So it's laps. It's the 6th lap by the time you get a full flying lap. And I think the very first lap that you did from a standing start was about 1:27.
And last year that was my fastest.
Yeah, which was incredible first lap. And I was watching the sectors thing, and then you started going green and green, and I was thinking you could possibly be on for that illustrious 1:30.
Mate, I've dreamed of it since I was a little girl.
And obviously last full lap, and you came through in an amazing P10, top 10 in the senior Isle of Man senior TT, and you did 129.65 miles an hour. You must. I know you're gutted to miss out on that 1:30, but you must be so proud of yourself and your team for a fantastic effort.
Well, there's a video kicking around me dancing like a chicken, which I'm not very proud of, and it's got some views anyway. I'm more viral than bloody Freddie Mercury. It's upsetting.
I see on the old Twitter that's up to about 45,000
Stop
views.
reminding us, man.
No, when you think of like a football stadium like Anfield, for instance, I think that's about 45,000. Imagine Liverpool Football Club full.
Bunch of angry scousers. I'm getting scared now. I'm getting a sweat on me brow.
But no, I would just say that video it's so nice because it's not like a big camera that you're playing up in front of. You don't even know it's there, and it's just it captures the moment. Do you know how sometimes a photographer captures a special moment in time? That encapsulates everything about the TT, and you know all the hard work and all the sacrifice and all the effort that you, your family, your team have put in. Obviously, really challenging 2 weeks. And then you go out there and you do your personal best, finish top 10 in a senior TT, and that exuberance, it's just fantastic. And we've had so many tweets and messages about, you know, people just saying, I keep watching it and it keeps making us smile, and every single time I watch it, it makes us grin ear to ear because it's brilliant. And I mean, I know you're cringing, but
stop it.
It is fantastic, and it's it's joyous, and yeah, it's like I say, everything that the TT is all about. Can you if you had to sort of explain how you were feeling then, what are your emotions after the senior TT?
Like a teenage boy who discovered tits and cocaine all in the same evening. That's how I felt. And then obviously finding out I didn't do the 1:30s, like, oh, she's pregnant. You know, it's like, that's kind of like, oh no, what am I going to do? But no, like, to be honest, mate, like, you know, when I first started racing, I never thought I'd be seeded. I never thought I'd be top 10. And I always said to myself, if I do a 1:30, it was just, them dreams that you kind of just think, if I get there, if I don't, I've tried.
Mm-hmm.
Mate, the realistic side of it is my dad's put the facts together, and because my dad sits in the caravan, he doesn't come to the start line. He sees me off, and he sits in the start line, puts all the sectors together, looks through it, and I'm comfortably, if I put all my best sectors together, I'm comfortably doing 130s, even 131s. My dad says, I'm capable of 131, and that was from this year with little track time, and it's nice to know that, but realistically, the facts are on black and white paper. I've done 129.6, not a 130 or 131.
Well, in terms of the time, the lap time, what does that 0.35 of a mile an hour? How many seconds is that?
That works out 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
I needed to do 3 seconds to win the 100.
Absolutely nothing. Over 37.
I know. Stop it.
Well,
like I can actually see myself losing that time. When you just digest the information again. I missed a gear there. I was too early there. I tipped in too early there, and you can actually pick I think I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing that wrong. I'm like doing this, and at no point do you come away thinking that was the perfect lap. That there is no such thing. Even Hickman will sit there and go, that what I'm capable of and what his idea is a perfect lap is.
So no, in the senior TT, obviously you had that little mishap in the second pit stop. Was there any other did you see any? Was there any yellow flags? Was there any sort of wildlife in your way? Anything?
I tell you what, speaking of wildlife, mate, my first lap, right? As true as I'm sitting here talking to you, mind, and I mean as true as that. tipped into Greba Castle. There was a fucking peacock. I'm not kidding, mate. Full on peacock.
On the racing
Giving
line.
it on the racing line, tipping in. I'm going back to, just in, going like that, looking at it, going, that's a fucking peacock. Like, I'm like tipping in, going, what the? I'm like fully, like, you know, like
Fully
like
committed,
fully
yeah.
committed on the break. And honestly, I must have just skipped its beak. I mean, it was just like, I'm riding along, going, someone's gonna hit that. And anyway, Brat, like, I came in, like, I'm going, does anyone see the peacock? And they're going, Herbertson's actually cracked. He's finally cracked. He's a psychopath. I'm going, there's a peak. No one believed me, right? So anyway, I'm out on the rip with my mates after. And everyone's going, shut up, Herbertson. No one believes you. No one believes you, whatever. And lucky for me, this random bloke appeared out the fog of the drink and haze and goes, hey, you were lucky you didn't kill that peacock. And I was over the moon. I was like, proof. I was like, yes. But if there's anyone out there who's actually got a photo of me trying to destroy a beautiful part of nature on a ZX10, that would be awesome if anyone's got a photo of it.
And obviously the senior TT was won by Dean Harrison.
That is so good. But Hickman, I'm not saying that as a but. At the end of the day, to finish first, you first must finish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the TD does. It finds gremlins and everything. And obviously it wasn't Hickman's time, but Hickman was he was very far in front, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was. I mean, Hickman, like you said, historically Dean Harrison's always started off the lap well, and then Hickman catches him on the mountain. Where Hickman started that race really strong, and then he was pulling, and it got to the point where it was such a big lead that I think Dean was probably happy settling for second, but then Hickman had a problem with with his bike. I think it was a problem about going over 11,500, and it was squirting water out, I think. So he had to basically nurse the bike home for the last two laps. Basically, I think, reading between the lines, Hickman was wanting to run his Superstock engine all week, but after the Superstock race on it would have been Wednesday or Thursday, Wednesday, the scrutineers decided to strip Hickman's bike, which obviously they've got every right to make sure that it was legal.
You almost get punished for winning.
But yeah, exactly. but that meant that the team were forced to run the Superbike engine, which they didn't actually want to for the senior.
Right.
And I think so. It was a bit of a risk for them to run that because they'd been running the Superstock engine all week. And for the Superbike races, obviously, they were putting the swinging arm and the front end and the rear end. So it was kind of like a Superbike chassis with a stock engine.
With a manageable engine.
Yeah. So, yeah, that sort of bit them. But like you say, the TT is a test of man and machine. And on the day, it was Dean Harrison's day. And
the Silicon team, yeah.
And it was a deserved win, of Kawasaki's first since, I think it was 1975 or something like that. Obviously on the brand new Kawasaki's ZX10 RR, and he rode a sublime race, a nice gap from P3.
You cannot take it away from here. It's the outright 2019 TT senior winner, and it's mint.
Deservingly so. And I really like Dean Harrison. He's very down to earth. He connects with the fans. And what was really nice as well is his dad Conrad got interviewed straight after. And I didn't actually know until the senior that Dean's brother Adrian also races. So there was Dean, Adrian, and then Conrad. So the
Adrian
three
can drink. I like Adrian. I get along with Adrian.
And Dean came in. He'd won the senior TT for the first time. He came in, and the first thing he said was, "Is our Adrian back?" Which I thought was cool. Like, and
salt. The lad's salt, isn't he? Salt of the earth.
And and what was cool is that family is now, I think, the first family that's got the complete set of the TT. So they've
because his dad won the sidecar. He's won the sidecar TT, hasn't he?
So yeah, Conrad's got the sidecar, and then Dean's obviously got the lightweight, the super sport, the stock, the super bike, and now the senior. So yeah, full set of Isle of Man trophies, which I think is the first.
Hell of cabinet at the Harrison household, isn't it?
It is. I would love to get Dean on the podcast. I'll have to maybe drop him another message and see if we
can't afford him now, mate. There's no way we can't afford we got number 10 here. We can't afford number 1.
But yeah, superb. But now, I would also like to mention Davey Todd, a cracking ride he was running P5 for most of the race and then just got nipped by Hillier, so in 6th position. But superb ride, obviously second time at the TT, and he broke the 131 mile an hour.
Which is brilliant.
Which
It can just, the lad has clearly got skills and talent on a motorcycle, and for a lad who's been riding since he was 6 years old, he's definitely not wasted that. And look where he is, and he's going to go considerably further in this game. And obviously, he was very, very close friends with Daly, and
must have been a hell of a challenging week for him.
It was a very challenging week for him, and he I wouldn't say the word overcome, but what he achieved after going through that, because they were so close, and obviously you'll be feeling that Davey would, yeah. So no, I think he's definitely, and everyone knows this now, that Davey's the one to keep an eye on in the future, and yeah, long may it last.
That's it. And I seen on Twitter that Derek McGee tweeted a couple of days ago. Obviously, he was set for a really good TT this year, and it was, I can't remember which night it was, but he went down in the Super Twin qualifying, and he put a special thank you on Twitter to yourself. Would you talk us through what happened?
Well, basically it was a case of Derek and Gary Johnson just passed us on the Super Twin, so they just passed us in a straight line. And obviously we tipped in the Grieber. I bet it was that bloody Peacock. I bet it was that sinful Peacock. There you go. But obviously I came into the corner, and obviously on the way out I just saw Derek literally up against the building on the left hand side, and I was obviously the marshals waving flags, and it was still the dust was still settling. So I just dropped my bike, and I just saw Derek by himself, and I had to go see him, and but obviously your initial thought is, please still be with us, and obviously I got to him, and I'm like, Derek, and he goes, who's that? Not whinging or screaming or anything like that. Who's that? Goes, oh, it's Dominic. He goes, oh, hello, mate. Just having a formal chat with a guy who's just chewing up a side of a curb here, and it was just when you meet tough people, and it's always the quiet ones who are the toughest. Derek McGee is very much that, and I'm like, Derek, he's like, oh, can you lift me visor up? He's struggling to breathe. I lift his visor up, and he's just like, oh, I said, oh, what's up with you guys? Oh, it's my femur and my pelvis. You see, you get these road races, man, these Southern Irish, these Irish road races are a different breed, man. Honestly, mate, they're as tough as a pair of old boots, man. And, obviously we got him on the stretcher and put him in the helicopter, and obviously at that point, everyone went through on the Super Twins, and I just had a bit of a lap back by myself. And it was good that Derek's on the mend, and
special get well soon, I guess.
Without a doubt, and it's good. It's good to see him. He's going to be back on his feet. It's very good to see.
Yeah, spot on. And also, there's been news or speculation recently on Twitter that Glenn Irwin's possibly shown an interest in coming to the Isle of Man TT from next year. What's your opinion on that?
I think he comes from a pedigree of his dad's done it. Peter Hickman's dad's done it as well. These lads have come from they haven't just appeared out of nowhere and thought, I'll give this a crack. They obviously put a lot of thought into it. And Glenn, in my opinion, obviously, to put it blunt, and if he is listening, I do apologise for saying this, but he's having a bit of a shit BSB this year. Something's not quite clicking. Aye. Something's not clicking for him, which is unfortunate. But the lad is a road racer. He's won the Macau Grand Prix, he's won the Northwest, and has he won around the Ulster? I'm not sure if he has.
No, I think he was second first. He was a newcomer, and he was second.
Yeah, he did it on a Super Twin and a Super Sport.
Yeah, Gearlink.
But Gearlink, that's it. So he's always been on top machinery. But the lad is a road racer. There's no question about it. But I've never known the exact reason why he's shrugged it off in the past. Mm-hmm. But obviously, for some reason, he's gone there with shitty conditions and thought, I'll give this a go. And I don't know exactly why he might have done that. But
yeah, well, like you say, obviously, this year's definitely not going to plan from so far with the new Kawasaki, obviously, joining the reigning champions, the Bournemouth Kawasaki team. And he was coming into the season as the pre-favourite for the championship. And he's had a really, terrible start of the season. obviously he started the Northwest a few years ago, which was and then Ulster, so kind of introduced into road racing, and I guess it's possibly the next step. Obviously, he's always, I mean, when he's been going to TT, it was he was always riding the one bike, and then this year it was all classes. So maybe it's just getting more and more and more. And
in the roads.
yeah, and obviously the step to the TTs, there's a massive following of the TT.
Yeah.
It's a massive commitment, but there's, in terms of potential earnings,
He could earn a fair bit of cheddar, couldn't he?
That's it. And obviously, I'd imagine that would be a big draw for him.
He's a young family man himself. He's got to think. He's got to think about what he wants.
Mm-hmm. But it'll be interesting to see what develops there. Did you see the RST did a launch over on the island? The new airbag suit.
Oh, I made Connor Cummins look like a bodybuilder. It looked after mid-video of that.
Yeah, going off.
That's it. It looks good, though. And obviously RST, who kindly sponsor you and me, mate. And it's very much a company that move with the times. And the airbag suit is definitely the future, and it is saving life and limb, shall we say, life and limb.
And if I had to push you for man of the meeting for the full TT, who would you give it to? So the Dominic Herbertson man of the meeting.
No, not a chance. No, not that pillock. Right, it's between Jamie Coward and we. Obviously, this is our take two on it, and we were briefly discussing this yesterday. But a lad called Forrest Dunn, now very much a privateer. He's got a good team together now with his friends, and the bikes are really, really presentable. And he's putting the lap times in. He got refused an entry a couple of years ago because obviously he struggled to do the 120. Now he's doing 125s. He's really knuckled down, and he's showing what he's capable of, and he's capable of a lot more. So I would actually, I'm sure. I love you to bitch, Jamie, and you're going places, and you've had an outstanding run. But I'm gonna have to go with Forrest Dunn. I really am.
It was kind of like the spirit of the TT as well. Obviously, his bike breaking down and then pushing it over the line to make sure he got the finish, which was that is.
You wouldn't want to stop Forrest. He's all shoulders as well. So if any marshal's trying to stop him, you just off you go, son.
Spot on.
Well, who's yours? Go on then. Who's yours?
Well, I mean, like you say, the two that you've just mentioned, you've got Dean Harrison, obviously, for winning the senior. You could have potentially Davey Todd for such a strong year.
It's a big list.
It is. There's a few big contenders.
Now pick one.
I'll go. I'll go with Dean Harrison because for all the hard work that he's put in, and to finally get a senior TT win, it was really good to see. And I think nobody deserves it more. So
that's fair enough, mate. That's fair enough.
So before we wrap up, I'll just quickly say I was up at Knockhill testing on Monday ahead of Brands GP this weekend. So good day. Day started off beautiful sunshine, which you very rarely get at Knockhill, and then it absolutely caned it down in the afternoon. And because none of the teams had the garage floor or anything, so when it started raining, it was like a full river through the middle of through the pit garages. But we were parked up next to Scott Red and Josh Brooks, Jason O'Halloran, Taryn McGee, all the big boys,
all the big lads,
and there was a big stream running through. So yeah, we've got a few good sessions in, got the bike dialed in nicely, and I'm really looking forward to the weekend. We've got a double header on Saturday.
This is a Brands, not
Brands
GP,
GP, yeah. Double header on Saturday, and then another race on Sunday. So yeah, all set for that. I'll also mention that I'm going to be putting a fan bus up to Knockhill. So if anyone in the local area fancies a trip to Knockhill BSB,
woo, Christy Rouse,
then we're sticking a bus on. We're sticking it on for the Sunday. So I think it's Sunday the 30th of June. So a couple of weekends time. But
awesome.
If you fancy that, I'll do a deal for a ticket and the bus.
Chasing the race and discount, people. Chasing the race and discount.
Get in touch if you fancy that. It's good crack, and I think there'll be a raffle and all kinds on the bus. So yeah, it's good crack, good day out. So if you fancy that, get in touch. Also, just very briefly, there was the World Superbikes at Jerez at the weekend. I don't know if you've seen, but there was a big collision between Johnny Ray and Alex Lowe's going into the final corner.
You were showing us this yesterday, man. It was a proper dirty move.
Well,
proper dirty move, man.
I mean, Johnny Ray isn't a dirty rider at all, but the move itself, it appeared it was a terrible
I've
move.
seen cleaner streets in Middlesbrough, man, than that.
Yeah, it was a bad move, and I think Johnny knew it as soon as he did it. So he was very apologetic, but he got a sort of a double penalty for it. He got demoted down to 4th place in the race, like a short time
It's like a
penalty.
pantomime. Boo.
And he also had to start the next race from the back of the grid. But the rest of the weekend, Bautista crashed in the final race.
Yay!
Van der Mark got his first win for a good while, and I mean the racing was pretty decent. Bridewell did a pretty good job standing in
Good
for
stuff.
Eugene Laverty, but yeah, quite enjoyed the racing, and it was good to watch. And just before we wrap up, we ran a little competition of episode 16 to win a TT Cases phone case. All what you had to do was retweet the episode on the Twitter.
137 retweets, mate.
So thanks very much to all the people that retweeted.
And all the support as normal. Here we go. It's got who's picking, you or me, mate?
Go on, you pick.
Right, go on then. Just talk amongst yourselves. Tell you what, while I'm scrolling, right, I just want to slag off ITV4. The coverage is shit.
Yeah,
It's
the
shit.
TT coverage.
Wait. Before we go there, right, I have picked Lucy Pollitt.
Lucy
Right.
Pollard. So yeah, we'll drop you a message, and you
Yeah,
obviously
hello,
get in touch, and I'll send the message over to the
Awesome.
Flick at TT Cases and get that sorted. And
Awesome.
like you just touched on, the TT coverage
Is shit. Right, I'm
for
not right.
ITV4.
Ready, get ready. Full on brawl here. Right, at the end of the day, the people who watch it are TT fans. And for some reason, they only follow the top 4 or 5. You know what I mean? You've got people like Jamie Coward, like everyone. I'm not actually getting that wound up already. I can't even give any names. But you're talking 60, 70 competitors, right, who spend an absolute fortune to go racing, to entertain and go do their own thing, you know, and trying to get sponsors involved on that, right? And ITV cover the same shit every year, right? It's the same corners. There's 264 of the fucking things, mate, right? It's 37 mile, and the thing is, you can switch it off, right? In 10 years from now, put it back on, and it'll be the exact same show. You know what I mean? This is the world's greatest event. Act like it. And also, while I'm having a full-on rant, and I keep myself to myself, and I don't like ranting, but they're getting both barrels here, Chrissy, right? Whatever happened to the brolly dollies? Right? This is road racing, not Ponzi F1, where you all have feelings and sexism and all that shite, right? Thank God for Monster Energy, because them girls there held up the light, mind, right? Because the last thing I would like to see before I go off down that road is a couple of smoking hotties, right? You know what I mean? Life's for living, motorcycles and titties. You know what I mean? I'm just like, and then you turn up at the senior, nothing, mate. Not a.
Do you know why that was?
No smoking hotties, mate. Not a single one.
So
Super Sport race was my favourite because you had a couple of Monster Energy girls waving you off into the oblivion. It's great.
So who do you need to get in touch with to stick your formal
I've
complaint
asked Jesus and everyone, mate. I'm on the Buddha next. I don't know, but ITV, pull your finger out. And I tell you what, right? You give me one person, right? One person on here, tweet this show and give me one person who likes the coverage. I am honestly challenging. Don't get me wrong. They do all right.
Uh-huh.
But the fact is, there's people here, and I can hear people nodding, listen to this. It is the same shit all the time. You know what I mean? And I'm talking, the BBC, the Northwest, do an awesome job. You know what I mean? They give everyone a run, you know, all the way down to 20th, and you're thinking, for crying out loud, you know, just give the little guy a chance. It looks like there's only 4 or 5 people. Gary Johnson, right? Only had like 5 seconds of air. Jamie Coward, yeah, there's a name. He got a couple of split seconds. That team have poured money into him, and he's only got a couple of seconds on air, and he did outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And you just think, it boils me, you know. And you just think that if they want the event to be bigger, act like it's bigger, not just 5 people going out for a Sunday ride.
Well, that's
sorry. Right.
Good
well done,
rant.
Lucy Pollitt. Thank you all our guests. Cheers, all our sponsors. Right, bye.
Yeah. So phone case winner sorted. we didn't actually have the rant down, but the double rant,
Yeah,
both
sorry,
barrels.
I've just caught Chrissy with his pants down here. Sorry, you'll edit this out probably. So,
Both
yeah.
barrels, and we've got. I would also just like to say thanks so much to everyone that left a positive review on the old iTunes. We're on about 77 5-star ratings now, which it's really really nice for us both to read, and like people that we've never met who listen to this on the way to work or whatever, and really appreciate everyone that's taken the time to do that. And if anyone would like to do that who hasn't, I would really appreciate it.
If it's anything lower than 5-star, don't bother. Right? We've got a record to keep here and we're competitive.
Yeah. No, but I think it helps the show get, like, more people see the show, and like I presume there's like ratings and stuff, so it definitely helps us out if you want to drop us a little 5-star review. So thanks to all the people that have done. And we'll get another podcast in probably we'll squeeze one in next week. Obviously you've got Brands GP. What's like your calendar for the next few months? Have you got any racing coming up?
Enniskillen in a couple of weeks. I'm getting to go on John Chapman's NSR 250 two-stroke there around Cadwell at the parade. Well, hopefully, I did see him just coming out of the pub, like, so I'm not sure if he'll change his mind. But no, that's my plan anyway. Then obviously Ulster Classic, and take it as they come, as they say. I'm going to take it as they come.
Spot on. Well, I really hope the mics have picked up this episode.
We're not doing a Mark 3. I've had me rant. There you are. I'm never going to be... I'll tell you what, I'll never get a sponsor again after slagging that off.
Spot on. Well, thanks very much, Dom, and we'll speak next week.
Cheers, Chrissy.
Cheers,
Take care.
mate. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Bye.